As ordered by President Trump, the Pentagon has started releasing these declassified UFO files, including video and photos held by the government for decades now. These files, they've been a source of intrigue for sure and fascination for generations of skeptical Americans wondering if we are alone in the universe. Among the files in the newly unsealed trove are incidents from the Apollo 11, Apollo 12, Apollo 17 moon missions. In a 1969 debriefing after the Apollo 11 flight, astronaut Buzz Aldrin reported seeing little flashes inside the cabin, spaced a couple of minutes apart while trying to fall asleep at one point. There was another incident where Aldrin, he described seeing what appeared to be a fairly bright light, a source which was tentatively ascribed to be possibly a labor, maybe crystals in the sky. My next guest, Miguel Sancho. He was a senior producer with the primetime show 2020 and was an investigative producer for 48 Hours. He's also the showrunner for the hit series The Proof Is Out There. Miguel is out with this new book now, The Evidence of the Extraordinary, or Evidence of the Extraordinary, I should say. In it, he's tackling the mystifying world of UFOs, among many other things. Miguel joining us here in studio today. Congrats on the new book, friend. It's good to see you.
Wonderful to be here, and thank you so much.
Thank you. We're excited to have you. And timely, right?
Indeed.
Timely. You launched your new book last week. I had the honor and privilege of emceeing your book launch, so thank you for having me for that.
Wonderful.
I did my reading, and it's fantastic. It's fascinating. It's a quick read. It's a smart read. Would expect nothing less with your pedigree. So the heads of the History Channel, they really wanted you to run the show. You were running the show, the series Proof Is Out There. And they wanted you to do it because you're a cynical, crusty old journalist. And you're saying, hey, I don't have any experience with these, out-of-this-world phenomena, but that's why they hired you.
Yes, and I'm getting more cynical and crusty by the day. That's top of my resume. Yeah, no, to their great credit. Well, with this particular program, this particular idea, they wanted to be putting all these amazing videos and photographs and recordings through the lens of a critical journalist,
sure.
Applying some rigorous standards and, where applicable, the scientific method. So it's not, of course, just me. It's a whole team of scientists and professors and also other cynical producers taking a look at this stuff. And it will surprise nobody that many of these things can indeed be explained, but there is that percentage that continues to stump us.
Yeah, and that's what's so fascinating to me is that you do apply all those rigors of journalism and scientific study, and you've been doing it for years. So that's why we felt like you were the perfect person to answer this question.
Indeed.
This 160-file dump about UAPs, to be clear, that's unidentified anomalous phenomena. They've now been released by the Pentagon. Some of the images, well, a lot of the images that I saw in this dump, Miguel, were very new to me. Were they new to you? Did anything surprise you?
So a couple things. First of all, I do believe that we should give some kudos to the Trump administration for releasing this stuff. As we can see, it's been released. There's no panic in the streets. The public can handle it. If anything, there's a layer of disappointment that it's not quite as groundbreaking and bombshelly as people were hoping for. But to answer your question, indeed, some of this stuff has never been seen before and is truly intriguing and somewhat head-scratching. Other has been released. For instance, some of the transcripts from the NASA astronauts was in the NASA archives before. Some of the videos also and stills have been out there. And this is certainly not the first time there's been any kind of documents released. However, the volume and both the quantity and the quality is to be appreciated. And there are indeed some stills and videos that do really require further analysis. Some of the experts that I spoke to, who are regulars on the show, in particularly, were very compelled by some of those stills from the NASA mission. Indeed, I mean, you don't have to be a scientist to know that if you're standing on the surface of the moon, you're really not supposed to be seeing lights in the area above that. Now, again, we need to also proceed with caution here because there have been other quote-unquote NASA photos or NASA images that have been proffered as hardcore evidence that there are UFOs that were seen on these missions, that NASA covered it up, which have subsequently been debunked as any number of things, including sometimes pieces of the lunar module itself. Nevertheless, there's a lot of good stuff in there that needs to be chewed on.
Yeah, well, I'm excited that you're kind of excited and intrigued by it. Bottom line, you didn't look at the 160 files and say, I've seen it all before. You were intrigued by it, and you probably spent your weekend carefully, picking it apart. So are you still skeptical, Miguel? And our producers hadn't read your book. I know that you did a great job of running up against every single tip and video clip that you could find, similar to the ones we're looking at here on our screen. But are you, I think the audience would appreciate you knowing from you, having had the background you have, being very skeptical, are you a believer? Do you believe the proof is out there?
Oh, my goodness, I knew I was going to get this one.
I know.
And I'm never prepared for this question.
The cheesy question, right?
I should have a better pat answer. So the answer is, it indeed is the fact that there are numerous phenomena that we cannot explain, including, of course, some of these UAPs. Some of them transmedium. They're not all up in the air. Some of them are subaqueous. And some of the most compelling videos and incidents have been involving those so-called transmedium vehicles or transmedium sightings. The thing is, though, to go from the statement that, A, we can't be alone in this universe, seems pretty obvious just based on the number of habitable planets.
Sure.
Or the second statement, there are things that the government hasn't been able to explain. Again, very easy for me to agree with that. To make the leap that there's an alien race that has evolved to the point that they can master interstellar or interdimensional travel, and that they've been able, and they've chosen to come here of all places, not once but several times, again, requires a series of conditional probabilities that make the hypothesis a little bit more of a stretch than most people are willing to accept.
Yeah, and so it sounds like you withhold any kind of formal statement, right?
But I go into the book and I go into every conversation like this with extreme humility, and I encourage other people to be so humble themselves. I mean, there's one thing all this stuff has told us is there's much we don't know. There's much that we go through life and our assumptions with a fair degree of certainty that very well might be unwarranted. And the whole history of science is the history of the received traditions being revolutionized and overthrown by ideas that were once considered radical and crazy and kooky that now we accept as standard.
Miguel Sancho, I'm getting the rap. I know you know what that means. I could talk to you for hours about this. You do, step before one scientist in one of your chapters and put the physics of some miracle that had happened, and you close the chapter by saying, well, if this guy says it's a miracle, who am I to say it's not? I loved it. I wanted to ask you about your faith, which I think you said got strengthened through your work. I'm sorry we're out of time, but fabulous book. It was a page turner. The proof is out there from the series of Proof is Out There. The new book is Evidence of the Extraordinary by Miguel Sancho. An honor, sir. Good to see you.
An honor to be here. Thank you so much.